Ladies and germs. And just got done watching what is without question one of the craziest races I've ever seen at Bristol, and perhaps ever. Who'd have thought that tire management would have been the key to making good racing and not higher horsepower like we'd all been thinking? Of course, higher horsepower might still be a good thing, but wow. This one kind of came out of left field, to say the least. And it was only spoiled by that absolute douchebag winning this race. And yes, this race took place on St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day, and the tires weren't so lucky today. Well, yeah, there's a lot to go through. Holy shit. Wow. Spring race came back with a vengeance, I would say. There is so much to talk about, and we're going to be getting into all that, so strap yourselves in. This is going to be one hell of a review. This is The Fuel. This video is sponsored by Dubby Jitterless Energy Blend and by Reaper Apparel Company. Stay tuned till after the video to learn how you can save 10% off of your order. What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the PackerMan, and welcome to tonight's edition of The Fuel. And tonight we're going to be talking about the 2024 Food City 500 from the Bristol Motor Speedway. First time that the spring race has been held on concrete in 4 years, and also held on St. Patrick's Day, which is only the 10th time in the history of the sport that has actually happened. Wow. Where do we even begin with this one? You know, because after what we saw at Phoenix with the short track package, the quote-unquote short track package that NASCAR tried to introduce, I'm not going to lie, I was not exactly feeling the most optimistic, because that race at Phoenix last week was complete total dog shit. So it definitely tempered my expectations for this race. And the big story coming into this race was all about horsepower, horsepower, horsepower. And Kyle Larson he had an interview. I forget who it was with, but it was basically saying that we could bring 1,000 horsepower to the track next week, and it wouldn't increase cost. So let me see if I can bring this up. Firefox is being a dick, and it's freezing up on me. So I'll go to my phone to do this. One second. I did not. God damn it! I didn't save the tweet, motherfucker. Or no, I replied to it. That's right. I forgot. So, Bob Pockris talked to NASCAR about the horsepower, and basically said that NASCAR said that the main view is increasing costs because of the engine needs more air, so you need to work on the air boxes and throttle linkages, ECU calibration, exhaust, if changes to airbox. Guaranteed increased cost for something data shows debatable improves racing. And when I saw this, I was kind of like, this just sounds like a bunch of fucking excuses that NASCAR is coming with because they don't want to increase the horsepower, even though there have been teams and drivers saying, hey, we need to increase the goddamn horsepower on these things. NASCAR's like, nah, it's increased costs and all this other fucking bullshit that NASCAR tries to drum up. All these fucking excuses. I am sick to death of the fucking excuses. Because that's all they are to me. I mean, NASCAR keeps coming up with all these fucking half-baked ideas to try to improve the racing, and it's just not working. It sure as fuck didn't work at Phoenix last week. Because the new short track package didn't do dick. So needless to say, I was not feeling optimistic coming into this race. And then early on in this race, when we kind of realized that the tire wear was pretty extreme, to put it lightly. At first I was like, ooh, this could end up being a not so good situation. It almost feels like Indy 2008 vibes from this. But then we actually started watching the racing itself, and it's like, holy shit. Maybe this is what we needed all along. Tire wear. Now, one thing I will admit is that the tire wear was probably a little bit too extreme, to the point where people were, including myself, worried that they might not have had enough tires. To the point where NASCAR actually had Goodyear mount up an extra set for each team, which was all they had. But it ended up being enough. And who would have thought that with all these tire issues, we actually ended up with a green flag run at the end of the race of 120 laps. With all these tire issues going on, with all these cars, all these drivers, basically keeping the cars on the track during the long green flag run until literally their tires blew out. And for all these drivers to keep their cars under control, get to pit road, get the tires that they needed, and go back out on the track and actually keep this race going green for the final 120 laps of this race is mind-boggling. And the lead changes. Holy shit. This race set two all-time records. Number one, it set the track record for Bristol for the most lead changes in track history. But not only that, this race set the all-time NASCAR record for lead changes at a short track race, period. $54 total lead changes at a short track. when the next gen car has been absolute dog shit at these short track races since its inception. Like, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to describe the feelings I'm having, because, you know, on the one hand, it was to the extreme, but it kind of says, well, maybe this is the direction we need to go in. And if they bring a tire back that is just a little bit tougher, that can last a little wee bit longer, but still, and maybe bring more sets, but also try to encourage that tire saving deal. NASCAR could be on to something here, because this race evolved into something that was very old school NASCAR. We ended up with just 5 cars on the lead lap. The last time that happened was Dover 20 years ago. But we still ended up with 2 guys at the end of this race fighting it out for the race win. Unfortunately, there's a couple of unfortunately's. One of which is the fact that there have been a lot of fans on social media that have been bitching and complaining like, oh, this was a disaster, and, you know, and all this other dumb shit. And of course you have people with a check mark like Austin Kokinski, who said this is an embarrassment for NASCAR and Goodyear. Bunch of dumb fuck idiots. Every last one of them. Because if you honestly thought that this race was one of the worst things that NASCAR has ever concocted, then maybe the sport of stock car racing, or maybe motorsports, isn't for you. Maybe go watch fucking golf or some shit, because it's pretty clear that, you know, you being a fan of motorsports just isn't good for your health, because it just seems like no matter what NASCAR does to try to improve the racing, you're always bitching and whining and fucking moaning, you know. And have I criticized NASCAR quite a bit over the past couple of years? Sure. But I give criticism when it is warranted. But I have also wholeheartedly praised them for the races that they've put on. I mean, look at Atlanta earlier this year. One of the best races of the entire year. I gave that race a 9. Las Vegas was solid. You know, and tonight was absolutely crazy. And in the best possible way, because it actually forced these drivers and teams to be creative with their tire management, with their resource management. And it made this race infinitesimally more interesting than just another one of them fucking, you know, follow the leader, doing, you know, 14-second, you know, qualifying laps every single lap for 500 laps. That's not interesting to me, because that's just follow the leader, choo-choo train bullshit. Like we've seen the last couple years in the night race. Do we really want to go through that again? Whereas this race forced, and Marcus said best, this was not a bad race at all. No, it wasn't. In fact, I would argue this rivals Atlanta for the best race of the year. And literally, the only thing to me that spoils this race is the dickhead who won it. It's like, seriously? Out of all fucking people that could win one of the best races of all time, in my personal opinion, it had to be the fucking narcissistic asshole. Of course that's how it works. But yeah, if you're one of those people that thought this was a bad race, then get the fuck out of motorsports and don't come back. Go watch fucking golf or some shit, because it's pretty obvious that this shit sends you into orbit, no matter how good or bad it is. So how about you do us all a favor and shut the fuck up, you bunch of entitled, fucking pussy-ass bitches. It's like I said, I've had my fair share of criticism for NASCAR, but I give it when it's warranted, when it's actually fucking warranted. And in this case, this is not warranted. I mean, I was going to rag on Goodyear, but as I as I looked at it more and more, I was like, well, maybe this will force the teams to be more creative and have to conserve their stuff. And it actually turned into one of the best races, maybe of all time. So I don't know what to tell you. But anywho, let's go ahead and get into this review. A lot of pages of notes this time around, because the number of lead changes that this race had is just fucking insanity. These are the type of lead change numbers that you would expect at a super speedway. Now, the green flag passes overall is not the same as what you would see at a super speedway. In fact, the average, I think, is the lowest of the entire year, but it's not really reflective of how competitive this fucking race is, or was. So let's get into it. The stages broke down into 125, 125, and 250. Ryan Blaney started from the pole and he led lap 1, but Barry challenges him, gets underneath him for the race lead for a first pure lead change of what would be fucking many on lap 3. Hamlin and Elliott get by Briscoe for 3rd and 4th, and Bubba follows suit. Hamlin gets by Blaney for 2nd, and then he takes the lead from Barry on lap 22. Then we get our first caution on lap 23 when debris from Byron's car falls onto the track after he got put into the wall after Christopher Bell got into Logano and shoved Logano up into Byron. So everyone comes in for service. We have our first restart on lap 31 with Tyler Reddick as the leader. He decided to stay out on old tires, which was a mistake because he would end up being the second caution on lap 32 when he basically got run over, spun out. Zane Smith fucking ARCA braked right into him. It's like, what the fuck are you doing, man? And then 4 other cars were trying to slow down and got involved in a separate incident further back. And at this point, I was like, they were showing the marbles up in the upper lane. I'm like, holy shit, that's a lot of marbles. Because for some reason, the track was not rubbering up. It was not taking rubber like it usually did. Now, they decided to use a resin instead of the PJ1 that they had been using. So I don't know if that was a factor, because this was basically the same tire that they used during the night race last year. And yet this time around, the track wasn't taking rubber. Of course, it was much colder today than it was in the night race last year. So that could also be a reason. There's a lot of different factors that kind of went into this. So, but I mean, whatever it was, I mean, it turned it into one hell of a race, I'll tell you that much. So we had a restart on lap 39 with Bubba Wallace as the leader, but then Josh Berry gets underneath him for the lead. For a third pure lead change on lap 41, Michael McDowell was up to third at this point. Starting to see that 34 up at the front more and more often. Wallace closes back in on Berry for the lead and takes it, which was highly unusual, because it's like, you don't really see that after just a few laps, but that's what was happening with these tires. So we had our fourth pure lead change on lap 49. Hamlin up to second as Berry drops back a bit. Then we have a three-way fight for the lead between Bubba Wallace, Hamlin, and Blaney, with Hamlin taking the lead on lap 53. Elliott moves up to third as there is a conga line all the way back through from the lead to 10th, and I'm like, is this Bristol or is this fucking Daytona all of a sudden? Because all of these guys are right on top of each other, and this is laps after the restart. Elliott actually goes to the lead on lap 61. And then many laps into the run, and everybody is just right on top of each other. I mean, I was here for it though. Blaney goes to the lead on lap 65, and then we had our third caution on lap 69. Zane Smith blew a right front tire, and there was debris on the track from it, so they had to throw the caution for that. Everyone comes in for service as tires are quickly becoming a concern. They only had 9 sets plus the one they started on, so they had 10 total sets. And it was quickly becoming a concern that it might not be enough sets considering how fast these tires were wearing. So Goodyear was actually scrambling to mount another set of tires, which is all they had for each of these teams. So, yeah, they were in full scramble mode, to say the least. I don't like Ty Gibbs, but I can recognize his talent. Yeah, you know, that's such the weird thing with him, because it's pretty obvious that he's in the 54 car through nepotism. Let's just call it what it is. But there's no question that the dude has talent. I mean, he wouldn't be leading laps and running up front if that wasn't the case. You know, in all likelihood, he probably should have won this race. It just wasn't in the cards for him today. So we had a restart on lap 80 with Hamlin as the leader. Blaney took the lead on lap 83. Elliott starts reporting a voltage issue on the car. Chris Buescher was up to the top 10 after starting 34th. And then Busch gets by Elliott for third. We have our ninth pure lead change on lap 90 when Denny Hamlin takes the lead. Busch gets by Blaney for second. Battle for fourth on back is just crazy. Busch starts plummeting for a right rear tire going flat because it was pretty much worn out. We had our 10th pure lead change on lap 120 when Ty Gibbs took the lead. Blaney had the lead off of turn 2 actually, and was third by the time they came back around the next lap. That's how crazy that exchange was. Buescher up to third. Then we had our fourth caution on lap 124 with both Hamlin and Busch losing right rear tires simultaneously, and Busch spinning out and then jacking it into reverse and going about half a lap around the track in reverse. And if there's someone who knows how to drive a race car in reverse, it's Kyle Busch. So Ty Gibbs wins stage number 1 under caution. And at this point I was like, the tire wear has created some great racing, but with only 9 sets, running out of tires is a concern. So my solution would be to make the tires just a little wee bit harder, and also bring a few more sets so that way we don't have this kind of concern, but still keep the tire management kind of thing in place, because it's pretty obvious that it created, quite frankly, one of the best races that I've personally ever seen. So Kyle Larson, after pit stops, leads the start of stage 2. At this point, Goodyear was scrambling to get more tires mounted. Gibbs goes around to the outside of Larson for the lead. And then Josh Berry was coming hard on the outside, like he was pushing hard. But it was at this point that everybody realized that they needed to start conserving and backing the pace down in order to conserve their tires. The result of which, probably the craziest 25-lap sequence in Bristol history. Because Truex moved up to third and then took the lead on lap 146. The first of 9 pure lead changes in 25 laps. Everybody on top of each other trying to conserve tires. Ty Gibbs took the lead back on lap 150, and at this point it was back and forth we go. Kyle Larson took the lead on lap 154, then Gibbs took the lead back on lap 157. Denny Hamlin took the lead on lap 159. Then Larson took the lead on lap 163. Hamlin took the lead back from him on lap 166. Larson took the lead back 1 lap later. And at this point, I was like, the Bristol record for lead changes, which also happened to be the short track record, the all-time short track record in NASCAR, which was 40 back in 1991, was in serious jeopardy. And I was thinking they were going to break the record before they even got to the halfway point. And then Ty Gibbs took the lead back on lap 171. 9 pure lead changes in 25 laps. That is, at a short track, that is insanity. So everyone trying to control the pace of the race to manage tire wear. And then we had our 5th caution on lap 176 when Ricky Stenhouse makes contact with Michael McDowell, which shoots him up the track into Zane Smith, who's just had a fucking horrid day. This resulted from a stack up from contact between Logano and John Hunter Nemechek. So I kind of wonder if that was a continuation from last week. So everyone comes in for service, obviously, because it was feeding time. And Buescher wins the race off of pit road. So he goes from starting 34th to the lead of the race. And Gibbs got penalized for too many men over the wall. Didn't really matter because he blew his way back through the field very, very quickly. So we had the restart on lap 190 with Chris Buescher as the race leader. Bell under Buescher for the race lead, and it's our 20th pure lead change on lap number 200. Suarez gets loose under Justin Haley and almost wrecks both of them, but hangs on to it. Buescher starts to drop back a little bit. Gibbs starts bull rushing back towards the front, I mean in a hurry. And the craziest thing was he was actually on scuff tires, because when he got penalized, he had a set of fresh tires on, but the crew chief was like, well, since we're going to be at the back, let's take these fresh tires off and put scuffs back on to save a fresh set of tires, which was actually a pretty smart move. And they still bull rushed their way back through the front because everybody was in conservation mode. And the thing about a scuffed set of tires, they're heat cycled, which means that they're going to be, they're going to cool off, but they're also going to harden and then last longer. Josh Berry was being aggressive in this race. He was running into everybody, pretty much. Let's see, where was I? So we had 3 wide contact in the midfield. Truex Jr. takes the lead on lap 224 for our 21st pure lead change of the day. Gibbs all the way back up to third at this point after the restart. And we have our 6th caution on lap 227 when Kyle Busch spins in turn 2, but has just a lazy little spin and actually recovers quite nicely. So everyone comes in for service. The play may be putting scuff tires on to preserve tires. Ryan Blaney actually gets caught speeding on pit road on this pit stop. So we have a restart on lap 240 with 10 laps to go on the stage. The Spire cars of Corey LaJoie and Carson Hocevar stay out to save a set of tires, and they're basically quickly swallowed up by the field. Bell quickly gets by for the lead. Logano with a bump and run on Bell for the lead, damn near wrecked him. For our 22nd pure lead change on lap 245. Gibbs moves up to second. It looks like he's got a rocket ship today. Keselowski up to third. Then Ty Gibbs gets around Joey Logano. Basically, it wasn't even a contest. Just blew around him on the outside on lap 249 for a 23rd pure lead change. And Gibbs wins stage number 2, sweeping the first 2 stages. So everyone comes in for service. Gibbs was the first off of pit road. Cindric and Keselowski make contact on pit road, and someone actually ended up losing a wheel. I don't think we ever saw who that was. So Gibbs leads the start of stage 3. JGR was 1, 2, 3 on lap 280, and they actually would make it 1, 2, 3, 4 at one point. Truex takes the lead for a 24th pure lead change on lap 285. Bell gets by Gibbs for third. Logano starts plummeting through the field. Logano has just absolutely sucked dick this year. Justin Haley in the top 10 in the 51 car. Hamlin up to 4th, but Keselowski gets back by him for that spot. Then we have our 7th caution on lap 311 when Josh Berry spins off turn 2, similar fashion to Kyle Busch, but he also regains control. Everyone comes in for service, and Hamlin wins the race off this time, so we have a restart on lap 323 with Hamlin as the leader. Gibbs gets the lead on the restart and sets the all-time Bristol and short track record for lead changes in NASCAR with the 41st overall lead change of the day. It would not be the last one. Larson up to 4th as Truex falls back a bit. It was also getting cloudier as the race went along. It wasn't any real threat for rain. It was just making conditions kind of cold, which wasn't really helping with the tire wear. Daniel Hemrick bounces off the wall but keeps going. Gregson also hits the wall and has to pit. Hamlin regains the lead on lap 365 for a 25th pure lead change of the day. There were several drivers on the ragged edge, and then we have our 8th caution on lap 368 when Cindric tries to shoot the gap 3 wide between himself, Todd Gilliland, and Ricky Stenhouse, but I think actually clips the apron going into turn 3, and it actually shoots him up into Stenhouse, and he spins himself and the 47 out. So everyone comes in for service, and Hamlin wins the race off of pit road. And believe it or not, the restart on lap 380 was the final restart of the day. Can you believe that? With all of these tire issues that we had in this race, the restart on lap 380 was the final restart of the day. They ran the final 120 laps under green and went through a green flag set of pit stops with people blowing out tires and everything else. It was the craziest thing I've seen in years. And it was awesome. Because you had people trying to stretch the tires as far as they could go, so that way they would be able to make it the rest of the way on just the set of tires and be able to push it hard the rest of the way. Tire management, people, it makes some of the best racing, and it doesn't matter what kind of racing it is. So Bell leads the top at the lap after the restart, but then Hamlin gets it back the very next lap for a 26th pure lead change in lap 382. Joe Gibbs Racing 1, 2, 3, 4, closing in on 100 laps to go. Larson was penalized on the pit stop before this for equipment violation. Blaney was tank slapping down the front stretch after a little bit of contact with Chastain. It wasn't much, but he was tank slapping all the way down the front stretch. but he had a pretty ill handling car at this point. So Gibbs gets under Hamlin for the race lead for a 27th pure lead change on lap 399. Bell gets by Hamlin for second. Gilliland nearly piles up the JGR cars because he was so goddamn slow on old tires. So Hamlin takes the lead for the 28th pure lead change on lap 426. And it was at this point that we were in the danger zone with lots of drivers down on the cords and the tires. Slipping and sliding everywhere, having to pit for flat tires. I like Casgralla. He was having a decent run. Yeah, surprisingly, both of the Rick Ware cars, the 15 and the 51, had good runs today, which was crazy to think about. Yeah, green flag pit stops for tires, and at this point, it's kind of like, okay, what's going to happen here? Is there going to be a caution in the middle of this green flag cycle? None ever came. And I was like, this is insanity. You know, you have all these tires blowing out, all these guys trying to stretch it to the very edge because they don't want to be the caution, hoping they're not the caution. You know, that brings this whole thing out. And everybody who pits is like, oh my God, please don't have a caution come out. And none ever did. And at this point, I was like, okay, who has the luck of the Irish? Bowman was the last to come down pit road for tires. And I was like, wow. We actually had a complete cycle of green flag pit stops at Bristol with how these tires are blowing out. If this doesn't prove that this is some of the best drivers in the world, I don't know what does. Formula One, eat your fucking heart out. So Truex actually lost a little bit of time, but actually started closing back in on Hamlin for the race lead. Hamlin was into some heavy traffic, and I tell you what, this is old school fucking Bristol right here, where you had the leader in heavy lap traffic, and he was being chased from behind by his teammate Truex. And I was like, okay, who can navigate through the traffic and save the tires? And it was one hell of a battle. Truex actually got to the lead on lap 483 for a 29th pure lead change of the day, but Hamlin got it back on lap 484 for a 30th pure lead change of the day, and would ultimately be able to hold off Martin Truex Jr. to win the race, because of course it would be Denny fucking Hamlin winning one of the best races of all time. Of course it would be. That's how it always fucking works. You know, you have one of the best races of all time, and you have the fucking narcissist asshole winning the race. Go fucking figure. That's literally going to be the only thing that's going to keep me from giving it a 10 out of 10, was literally this fucking douchebag winning the race. I'm sorry. I mean, that seems kind of petty, but that's just how I feel. Denny Hamlin's just a fucking scumbag to me. And anytime he wins at anything, it just puts a damper on the whole thing. That's how I feel about it. Matt DiBenedetto finished 6th in the 2016 Food City 500 BK Racing Equipment. He said it felt like a win for us. It shows how tough it is to pass at Bristol. It certainly wasn't fucking tough tonight, I'll tell you that much. I mean, yes, it was due to the tires, but I mean, that's what makes a good race. And it really, we've always been asking for NASCAR to put it back in the driver's hands. And what does tire management do? It puts it back in the driver's hands. And what did we see tonight? One of the best fucking Bristol races we've ever seen. So, if I was NASCAR in Goodyear, I wouldn't tweak the tire too much. I would probably make it a little bit harder, so that way it would last a little wee bit longer, and maybe bring an extra set or two, maybe 12 or 13 sets next time, so that way there won't be the concern for tires like there was tonight. But also keep it low enough, keep that number low enough to where management would still be a big thing and could help win the race like we saw tonight. So that's how I personally feel about that. Let's go through the numbers. But yeah, 54 overall lead changes. That's a number you typically see at fucking Daytona or Talladega. And we saw it at a short track, of all things. And it's the all-time NASCAR record for lead changes at a short track. Think about that. NASCAR was first formulated in 1948, and the Cup Series had its first race in 1949. Out of all the races that have been held on short tracks, which are 1 mile or below, this race tonight had the most lead changes of all time at short tracks. Wrap your head around that shit. Unbelievable. 30 pure lead changes. 8 caution flags, which for Bristol is actually not bad. And once again, 0 overtimes. 0 overtimes. We're continuing this little streak we've got going on of not seeing overtime. I love it. Fuck the overtimes. 3,589 green flag passes, which is actually pretty good. Now, of course, it averages out to 8.9 on average per lap, but we had a lot of green flag laps. I mean, it's a 500 lap race. So the average is a little bit misleading just due to the sheer number of laps that this race has. And Tyler Reddick did not lead the most laps. Denny Hamlin did, though. He did end up leading the most laps at 163. I believe it was 163, wasn't it? Let me double check Racing Reference here. Yes, it was 163. Alright. So, Denny Hamlin led the most laps at 163. Ended up winning the race. Whoop-de-fucking-do. If Truex would have ended up getting by him and winning this race would have easily gone to 10. Easily would have gone to 10. But as it stands, the final rating for this race is still going to be a high one. I don't get to give these ratings, this higher rating, all that often anymore. So it feels nice to, once again, give a 9 out of 10. This is, what, the 5th race of the year? The 5th points race of the year? Gotta give Hamlin credit, but what an effort by Truex. He was going for it. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I'm not questioning Hamlin's talent, okay? He is without question one of the best drivers that NASCAR has ever had. I mean, you don't get 52 career wins and like 4 Daytona 500s by being a fucking hack. I mean, yeah, we always rag on him about not winning a championship, but notwithstanding, there's no question that he is one of the best drivers of all time. I just don't like the guy because he's a fucking prick. That's my problem with Hamlin. He's a narcissistic asshole. And Larson pretty much confirmed that after Pocono last year. I can't stand the motherfucker. And anytime he wins a race, it just brings it down because it's like, wow. You know, probably the worst fucking choice to win a race such as this. You know, one of the best races of all time, and it had to be fucking Hamlin, of all people. So that's just how I personally feel about it. I know some other people might give it a 10, and you know what? That's fine. That's absolutely, if you don't have the same feelings as I do about Hamlin, then that's absolutely warranted. Because this race, I mean, when you have tire wear and you have to, and you put it back in the driver's hands and say, hey, you need to manage your tires and all that other stuff, we saw what NASCAR racing can be. I mean, I was literally on the edge of my seat for most of this fucking race, and how often does that happen anymore? Not very often. But other than Phoenix, this has actually been the best start to a NASCAR season I've seen in quite some time. I mean, you had the Daytona 500. You wouldn't have 52 wins if he was a hack, absolutely, like I just said. I mean, we had the Daytona 500, which would have been a classic if we didn't have that stupid-ass caution at the end. Atlanta kicked ass. Las Vegas was not great, but it was solid. Phoenix was, yeah, I mean, it wasn't super duper horrid, like officials interfering with the race and all that other shit. It was just boring as fuck. And then you have tonight, which kicked ass to the nth degree. The only blemish on it was Hamlin winning because I can't fucking stand him. So, I mean, this has been overall the best start to a NASCAR season that I think I've seen in quite some time. Now, will they be able to keep that momentum? I don't know. I want them to keep that momentum because I want to continue to see good fucking racing. You know, I don't want to feel like I've wasted 3 or 4 hours of my fucking life watching shit that just wasn't up to snuff. But right now, as much as I wasn't coming into this season, you know, looking forward to this season because I just wasn't really feeling it. I mean, I have to admit, this has been the best start to a NASCAR season I've seen in quite some time. And I hope that the upward trend continues. Because that's all I really want. I just want to see good racing. And in my opinion, we've gotten it this year. Let's hope they keep this momentum going. Absolutely. Next week is Circuit of the Americas, the first road course of the year. And, I mean, Circuit of the Americas and NASCAR have actually been kind of a good combination. I think last year, if it weren't for the fact that we had a dumb fucking caution at the end of that race, then that race would have been a classic. So, hopefully the trend of Circuit of the America continues, because I think COTA and NASCAR go together like chocolate and peanut butter, in my personal opinion. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful road courses on the circuit. Of course, purpose-built for Formula One. And as it turns out, it puts on some pretty fucking decent NASCAR races on top of that. So, anyways, that's going to do it for tonight's edition of The Fuel. Feeling pretty positive about how NASCAR is going this year. But we all know they're going to fuck it up at some point. It's just a matter of when. But hopefully I'm wrong about that. But next week is Circuit of the Americas, and we'll see how that race goes. So, thank you very much for watching this edition of The Fuel. And until next time, this is the PackerMan signing out. See you later. Hey, what's happening, ladies and germs? This is the PackerMan letting you know that tonight's video was sponsored by Dubby Jitterless Energy Blend and Reaper Apparel Company. Special shout out to both of them for sponsoring my YouTube channel. Dubby Energy is a jitterless energy blend that contains coffee fruit extract and was designed to give gamers a boost of energy without all the downsides of regular energy drinks like crashes and harmful ingredients. And there are several different great flavors that you can try, such as Dragonade, Push and Punch, Galaxy Grenade, Beach and Peach, Watermelonada, and the limited edition Palm Blom flavor. And don't forget to get you a plastic shaker while you're at it. If you're interested in giving Dubby Energy a shot, there's an affiliate link down in the description box below. In addition to Dubby Energy, this video has also been brought to you by Reaper Apparel Company. By clicking on the affiliate link down below in the description box, you'll be able to browse through many of their different wares, such as hats, t-shirts, hoodies, and other cool items. And that's not the only thing. When you place an order and you go to checkout, be sure to type in the code PackerMan and you'll be able to save 10% off of your order. And it would also help me out as well if you use the affiliate link, so thank you if you do. And also, special thanks to both Dubby and Reaper Apparel for sponsoring my channel. Hey, what's happening, ladies and germs, and thank you for watching tonight's video. Be sure to hit like and subscribe to stay apprised of the latest videos for this channel. If you would like to join the Spare Parts Gaming community, links to their Discord and Facebook are down in the description. Also, if you would like to leave me a tip for the video, a link to my coffee is down in the description box below, at buymeacoffee.com/thepackerman71. Also, be sure to give my channel sponsors W Energy and Reaper Apparel Company a shot. Their affiliate links are down in the description box below, and it would help me out as well. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, this is the Packerman signing out.